Day number 12, last day of the Bean week before we start the week of forgiving next week. The title is The Sabbath Was Made for Man, and the Bible passage comes from Mark chapter 2, verses 27. The Sabbath is one of the most understood among Christians today. Some Christians will go into an interview and say, I cannot work whenever. Others will say, no, Sundays are a deal breaker. I can't work that day. Why do some work and others don't? Why does Chick-fil-A give up more than $40 million a year by closing on Sundays, while among every other businesses stay open? Same could be said about Hobby Lobby. Sabbath is from the Hebrew word which means rest. It was first used in Genesis chapter 2 after God created the world. God created the world in 6 days and then rested on the seventh day. Why? Was he tired? No. God rested because what he made was worth enjoying. We are created like our Creator. So we also create and we rest. We work and then we play. After all, if God takes a day to enjoy his creation, shouldn't we? Have you ever mowed your lawn, even though it may not have been fun, while you were doing it? Afterwards, you took a shower, grabbed a drink, and then you just looked at the lawn because you were so proud of your work. Personally, I know I do. I love looking at my grass after I just mowed it. A sense of accomplishment and pride. But that is what the Sabbath is like. You are resting and enjoying something you created. This is why God made the Sabbath. We were made to work, but also to rest. God instituted the Sabbath as a gift for the Israelite people of the Old Testament. God says, above all, you shall keep my Sabbaths, for this will be a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath, because it is holy for you. This was a way the people could prove that they were in a relationship with God. It was a big deal. People who broke the Sabbath or profaned in a way were actually supposed to be put to death. Talk about harsh. But remember, the Sabbath was always meant as a gift, an opportunity to rest and enjoy life. However, by the time Jesus came, the Pharisees had changed the Sabbath into something it was never meant to be. In their desire to uphold the law, they had written chapter upon chapter about what it meant to keep the Sabbath. These were some of the rules that they came up with. 1. You could only eat an egg which had been laid on the Sabbath if you killed the chicken for Sabbath breaking. So you can only eat the egg of the chicken if the chicken broke a Sabbath law. It was not permitted to wear false teeth on the Sabbath. That must have been a hint in the synagogue service. It was fine to spit on a rock on the Sabbath, but you could not spit on the ground because that made mud, and that was work. The Pharisees twisted the Sabbath into something it was never meant to be. You can understand why the Pharisees were so upset with Jesus when he appeared to work on the Sabbath. But Jesus knew what the Sabbath was really about. It wasn't about being miserable and doing nothing. It wasn't about sitting in your house like a bump on the log. It was enjoying what God had created and what you have created through your work. Today, we also miss the big idea of the Sabbath. We work all the time because we like the things we get from it: money, possessions, or status. We look at our work to give us some of the things that God has promised to give. In Romans 14, verses 5 and 6, Paul writes, "One person considers one day more sacred than the other. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. Whoever regards one day as special does so to the Lord." Paul could have said, "This is exactly how you should keep the Sabbath," but he doesn't. What he says is that regarding this issue, you just have to be convinced in your own mind that you're doing what is right. Paul isn't telling us to abandon the practice, but to have flexibility in how we live it out. If you take Sundays off, great. If it's Saturday, cool. Maybe one week it's a Tuesday morning with a Thursday afternoon and then a Friday evening. As long as your motive is to the Lord and you are enjoying and resting in His creation, then it doesn't matter what day you do it. Just make sure that you do it. The more we keep the Sabbath, the more we will find the life we were made for. I think our theme for today is, if God takes a day to enjoy His creation, shouldn't we? The Bible passage, like I said, is Mark chapter 2, verses 25 through chapter 3, verse 6. And it says, "Here we read the story of Jesus upsetting the Pharisees on the Sabbath. He had just picked some heads of grain, and the Pharisees accused him of being unlawful." We read, Jesus answered, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the day of Abiathar, the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, 'The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even on the Sabbath.' Another time Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he could heal him on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, 'Stand up in front of everyone.' Then Jesus asked him, 'Which is lawful of the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save a life or to kill?' But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger, and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, 'Stretch out your hand.' He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus." Our challenge from today, I like this one. Take a day off. Use this day to enjoy what God has given you. It could be your faith, your family, or your house. In addition, what do you enjoy doing? Spend some time doing a hobby or pursuing an interest. Enjoy the day, but do not be too legalistic about it. At some point, spend some time reading your Bible and praying. If you can't take the day off, intentionally take one of the next 7 off. What did you do? How did you rest and enjoy this world? Just like I had you do on Monday, Write out in the comment section either on YouTube or Facebook. What did you do to enjoy your day off and to enjoy God's creation? We will see you on Monday, where we will begin day 13, which is the beginning of the forgiving week, where we talk about forgiveness. Day 13 through 19 is all about the week of forgiving. Blessings on your weekend. Happy Memorial Day, and we'll see you on Monday.